Hi, this is Hoodie from Training Systems and Tactics, here to talk to you a little bit about the reset and why it's so important to learn how to properly use and manipulate it when using and controlling your firearm. Before we do anything, obviously, we want to make sure that our firearms are unloaded, clear, there's no ammunition at all in the room, no magazine in this case either since we don't really need it. So the reset is a function of almost every striker fire gun. Many double action guns, single action guns do not have resets, or they don't need them since the reset is very low in the first place. With regard to most striker fire duty guns, which are the ones we carry for work, for instance like the SIG 320 or Glocks, every one of these have as part of the trigger considered a reset. So once again, we're unloaded, clear. When you fire your trigger, when you squeeze your trigger, what ends up happening is when you pull that back all the way, hold the trigger down into place. Don't let go. You fired that first shot. There's nothing. Don't release your finger. When you reload, if you slowly start to creep your trigger out, you end up feeling a click. Now that is called your reset. Now if you listen, that's your reset. That reset is the point where your firearm will fire again without any extra motion or any extra manipulation. If you pay attention, there was no movement in the trigger. On a regular trigger, if I was to release it, I would have to come to a point where the wall is. Now the wall is the area right before the trigger goes off. So here's the wall. See? Right there. That's the locking point. If I squeeze even a 100th of an inch more, the gun will fire. So we want to manipulate the trigger into properly using the reset as a control. Now there's a couple of different reasons why. I'll show you once again how the trigger works. If you slowly creep out, you hit a click and you can fire. Now, why would we use the trigger? A couple of main reasons why we use the trigger. Number one is, the most important one I should say, is control. If you have your firearm in a standard position where you have not touched the trigger yet, when you squeeze your trigger, you are now creating momentum from the beginning all the way back to the trigger, potentially pulling the muzzle down as you squeeze. Obviously, dry firing over time, professionally doing this, reduces that, but especially for beginners, that pull from the beginning to the end is more momentum required to pull the trigger and can potentially pull the muzzle down. Using the reset has less potential for pulling the muzzle down. For instance, fired my round, if I reset my gun and I release to the point of the reset, now if I squeeze, there's no full momentum, there's just that click. That's the number one reason why we try to manipulate the reset. That helps us to bring that in. The second reason, and obviously there are more, is shooting fast. The faster you can manipulate the trigger, the faster you can get off that second shot. When we want to get off as many shots as possible sometimes, we want to be able to control that. Now, slapping the trigger, which is what a lot of guys do, I did it for many, many years, does work, but realize something, that as you're slapping that trigger, your momentum, the muzzle is dropping, and it's taking more, since you have less physical control of the firearm, because your finger's not actually on it, you have longer amount of time to regain your sights for that second sight picture and the second shot. Practice at home a lot. Make sure the gun is empty. Get yourself done. Put your gun in battery. Squeeze the trigger. Rack the gun again. Slowly creep out and fire again. Keep doing that hundreds of times. And remember, it's all muscle memory.